Hey everyone, my name is Valeria, and today we're going to be talking about why you're the black sheep of the family. And I have plenty of experience in this area because I am the black sheep of my family. But the reason this happens, guys, and the reason it's so important to acknowledge that you are one, is because once you see the truth of what this actually is, it becomes so much easier to move forward and not feel so much anger, irritation towards your family or the world. Because being the black sheep essentially means that you are the person in the family that sees through the illusions and through the facades, through the masks, through the ego of the family. Because in a lot of narcissistic and dysfunctional families, there is a constant running theme of dysfunction, toxicity, negative behaviors like self sabotaging, and a lot of ego driven decisions. So, if you grew up around two individuals, for example, your mom and your dad, that were emotionally unavailable, they lacked awareness, they were too focused on themselves instead of being focused on you. A lot of times, these individuals ask of their children to give up their needs and their wants in order to serve the family, the caretakers, the family dynamic. So you end up growing up with a lot of wounds that were inflicted onto you by your caretakers. But the thing is, you're not the only one. Those wounds have also been inflicted by your grandparents onto your parents. But one thing about your parents is that instead of working through those wounds, healing that trauma, seeing it, becoming aware of it, changing the direction of the way things have been going, making a different choice, they ended up staying within the dysfunction because, as you know, once you've gone out of it and you could see it now, it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of hurt, it's a lot of like, damn, I'm really like wounded and I have a lot of bad coping mechanisms and I have low self esteem and I don't like myself or I don't believe in myself or I have a hard time standing up for myself. That's a huge one. For people to go through that and to overcome it and heal it and do something different takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of bravery that most people don't want to do. It's too much work for them. And for a lot of parents, especially in, this previous generation, just like their parents before them, they had their own level of setbacks, their own limitations, their own insecurities, their own traumas and fears that they held within them that stopped them from moving forward. So there comes a person in the family, ends up being almost chosen, but the way I like to say it is that the person that becomes the black sheep ends up choosing themselves. And the reason this person's called the black sheep is because the family hasn't had anybody in it that has called out the behavior. For the family, the way that they've been operating has been normal. It's been fine. It's been working. And there's a lot of toxic family dynamics. For example, people pleasing, codependency, narcissism. There's a certain system that's set within that family where the people that are purely feeding off of the ego are allowing these relationships around them to stay the way they are because it serves them. It gives them validation. It makes them feel better. It makes them feel more powerful because a lot of the people that have gone through the same trauma you've gone through in your family, they feel powerless. They feel insecure. And people have a very sinister way of coping with those feelings. And most of the time, it gets translated into abuse, emotional neglect, and you end up being on the other side of that, and you're like, oh, damn, okay, great. I'm here now. So the black sheep of the family is the person who sees all of that. They see the systems that are in place, how the main person of the household, whether it's your mom, your dad, your grandparents, uncles and aunts, all feed in to this toxicity. They feed in to the abuse, into the neglect, and nobody wants to do anything different or change, except now you do. And that's why you become the black sheep and you get shunned, because it's very scary for the family to see that there's someone out there calling them out on their bullshit, someone calling them out on what they're doing, how they're acting, their self-limiting beliefs, and what they believe in. Even this could also be religious, is also a huge part in it too. The reason you're the black sheep of the family is because you've chosen yourself to evolve the lineage of your family. Because our family, the one we're born into, is very rarely the family that is our real soul family. The families we're born into are the ones that become the springboard for us to understand what it is that we don't want to be like or don't want to have in our lives. And the nature of existence, reality, and of duality is to acknowledge that in order for humanity to evolve, they have to put someone into a family dynamic that has the characteristics, has the ability to see the discernment, the light, to change toxic and dysfunctional ways so we could stop operating from a place of ego, of negativity, of lack, of insecurity, and we can start operating from a place of love, of joy, of prosperity, of a healed place. And this is why the journey of the black sheep asks you to go on a healing journey and pretty much heal everything generationally that people haven't wanted to look at or acknowledge or even sit with. It's a very heavy and difficult emotions that have been buried and suppressed for probably generations, because if you think about where this abuse could have started, it could have been 10 cycles ago, 20 cycles. For this to keep going and for no one to say or do anything different and for you to do that is huge. It's huge. So what you ultimately are is the usherer of the new age, the usherer of, we're no longer sitting with the negative stuff, the bad stuff, the stuff that makes us all separated. We're healing and we're coming together. And a lot of times you're not going to get the backing of your family when you go on this path, because those people know that they're not willing to look at it. They're not willing to change. They're not willing to do something different. You're the only one that's like, I'm going to do different. But the things you have gone through ultimately become like your greatest strength. They become your greatest power, because the things that were inflicted on you by this family were wounds, but they were also kind of like gems, because you wouldn't know what to heal within that family if it wasn't directly inflicted upon you. And I know it may sound difficult to grasp because we're like, oh no, how could that be anything positive? But the truth of the reality is that you went through all of those things, and you can keep staying a victim like people in your family have and just brush it off to the side and just moved on forward in their toxic ways. Or you acknowledge that you don't have to be a victim. You could be the hero of this journey, and ultimately you are. You are literally like Harry Potter, where you come from, the worst of the worst, and you have all this abuse and trauma and people trying to keep you down. But at the end of the day, the reason they were trying to keep you down is because they saw the light in you. They saw the strength in you. They saw the willpower within you. And people are scared of the unknown. People are scared of change. And when there's a person in the family that from an early age, they could see that they have this ability of sight, of discernment, of shifting through and seeing through the illusions, that's scary for them. So they'd rather shun it. They'd rather put it away. They'd rather dim it because it's too scary. But you're no longer around those people. You may be the black sheep. You may have been removed from the family. You may have been shunned away. You may have people that don't get you in your family. But just a reminder that the crowd, don't follow the crowd because they're lost. The path that is the least traveled is the path that's going to give you the biggest rewards, because when you go down the path of what everyone's doing, you see their results and it's not the results you want. If you want different results, you're going to have to do something different. Just remember, you have never been the victim of this story. You have always been the hero.